I would like to start by stressing that the energy transitions, they lie at the core of the mitigation targets outlined by the parties' nationally determined contributions to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement as one. In fact, until 2030, most stated investment needs for climate mitigation in developing countries are in energy sector, particularly in the power generation, grids and storage subsectors, amounting to about 1.3 trillion annual in needs. Identifying priorities and key policy and regulatory actions to enable Paris-aligned system transformation is nationally determined process. Under the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement, developing countries particularly benefit from the Technology Needs Assessment process, which is the TNA for short, to identify such priorities and forge nationally endorsed implementation pathways for realization. To support developing countries with a dedicated guidance on technology options for energy transition, the UNFCCC Technology Executive Committee, which I am a member of, has partnered with UNIDO and the UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center to develop a guidebook as shown in the screen on renewable energy. The guidebook outlines a section on energy transition and distribution, covering technology measures such as dynamic line ratings, power flow controllers, typology optimization, advanced distribution management systems, conservative voltage reduction and voltage optimization, and mini-grid. Key consideration for the deployment of these measures are provided in the guidebook, including related economic assessment, affordability, mitigation and net zero emission potential, barriers to deployment, enhancing climate resilience of system, and just transition aspect. Each of these technologies contributes in a unique way towards mitigation and net zero potential goals. Some DLR reduce the need for new transition infrastructure by maximizing the use of existing transmission lines. Some PFCs reduce transmission losses by better managing congestion and distribution electricity for efficiently, which means less electricity needs to be generated. Some reduce outages through real-time monitoring, as well as reducing unnecessary generation, and some provide solution to reach remote areas.
Africa is endowed in all kinds of energy resources, conventional and renewable energy. So how do we combine the two to make it great? You know that our basic renewable, despite we have solar everywhere, but where we can have basic load is hydro. Now hydro have a specificity with the climate, everything. So the first is how to go on hybridization of hydro dam. So one country, Ghana, with the buoy power, now go hybriding the dam with solar panel. So the dam have 450 megawatt, and now the hybridization will be 50 megawatt. So now they have already floating solar on the reservoir, 5 megawatt going to 15 megawatt. So that first, reducing the water evaporation. Second, using more efficiently the resource, water resource. And 3, sending solar energy during the day and hydro during the night. Second one, we were talking about transition. For Africa, gas and nuclear, like in Europe, will be the transition energy. So we know that for now, only South Africa and Quebec have the first nuclear plant. The second one will be Egypt with 2,800 megawatt nuclear plant effective from 2027. But at the same time, the largest solar will be also in Egypt for 5,000 megawatt. So this kind of combination make the grid more stable. because without basic load, the reintegration of renewable energy will lead to collapsing the grid. And the last one on the list is Kenya. You know that one of the largest wind farm is Turkana Lake, 400 megawatt. Imagine that in 2019, in 10 minutes, Turkana Lake lost 380 megawatt. 10 minutes. The grid did not collapse. Why? They have geothermal, they have hydro, basic load. If not, they have been collapsed. The last story is very close to us. We know that we are working to integrate African network through integration of the regional market and the power pool, but Africa is already connected to Europe through the sea cable, Spain with Morocco. Last month, the grid in Iberic Island collapsed, Morocco and Portugal. What happened? Morocco sent 800 megawatt to Spain to restart the grid. If not, it's not workable. All the Europe grid will collapse if not this action going from. So Africa is developing the grid to integrate Africa, but also connect it with its neighbors like Europe, and the next one will be Tunisia to Italy, and Egypt already connected to Middle East. So this is stabilization of grid by interconnection work already today. So tomorrow will be key because storage is good, but interconnection is better to secure renewable energy.
Some of the technology priorities that you see, I know you're with the microgrid part of Tata Power, and microgrids clearly have a role, and I'd be interested in that. But other technologies that you see that are critical in India as we go to a more resilient and grid that can integrate renewables. Where's AMI, IoT technologies, DERMS, where does everything fit? What are some of the priorities?
And now we transition towards green energy, which is primarily on the wind and solar. Now, at that point of time, what we have built a system called islanding system, which has helped us to isolate city of Mumbai from the national grid. In case of a grid failure, that is a national grid failure, the system operates on a technology called DF by DT, where it senses the drop of frequency and a defined frequency, it will cut off the system and the system becomes self-islanded. And we have thermal generation, but primarily hydro generation was being used to take care of the power supply requirement of city of Mumbai. And that has been success story for decades to come. Almost 10 to 15 times islanding happened and we could save the city. Now coming from the grid stabilization to the resilience and to the end customer requirement, what we've been seeing that whatever technology you bring in, customer is neutral to that. He needs or she needs a reliable power supply, and if it fails, how fast it can come, at what cost it will come to him. So customers are interested how his energy bill can come down. And in that direction, Tata Power has been working on end customer requirement fulfilling that. And when you said smart technology, IoTs and smart meters, what we are going further ahead is to provide signature to the customer. Traditionally, what we get a overall load, what he consumes, and in the smart meter technology, what time was the total load. We have gone one step ahead to say which equipment in the house are being used. Like for example, AC have a different signature, or heater has a different signature. Those technologies we are working upon to provide that insight to the customer, that what point of time this particular equipment has been operating, and hence the associated cost with that. In addition to that, we provide customer insight how this technologies could be utilized to bring the energy cost down. And that's the way we feel that is very successful. But while doing so, I'll take you back to the operations. Like my colleague talked about, operations critical. Today, the smart grids are operated by central load dispatchers, which were earlier talking about few main grid lines. But when you go to LV side, managing few thousands number of LT lines going to end customer, because end customer consumes electricity. The technology, the capacity building, and the systems to take care of such requirements are very imminent. Imagine an operator sitting in the control room and sees that few customers have lost supply. The technology built into through IoT or AI to find out, is it a feeder level tripping or substation level tripping, so that the operator can direct the field staff to move to that point rather than waiting for end customers to call back.
We're seeking private and public sector investments to scale up their involvement in improving our grid situation. But at the core of it, the utility itself, there's only one major utility on the island that services the main island and the outlying states. What's happening is we're doing what we can. We know it's an aging infrastructure, so we're doing the assessments, we're addressing the gaps, we're fixing what we can fix. But again, like I said, we put in a very big IPP that's at 13 megawatt, whereas our peak is at 12 megawatt. So we're having these issues about storage because we don't have any batteries on island. So we're trying to address those issues with an aging infrastructure, and then it comes with its challenges. So we're trying to do is seeking assistance, but also doing our due diligence and trying to improve it. What we're talking about, like improving the transmission and distribution networks, installing protective systems, changing up the substations, the switching gears, all of those needs to be addressed. First, in order to address what we're trying to do, because we're seeking assistance in actually establishing the battery system, but at the same time, we're trying to address all the necessary things that we have to do in terms of the grid, fixing all the things that are broken, replacing items that need to be replaced. So those are the things that we're trying to do. We're also asking some help from international experts that are providing their assistance to Palau for free of charge. They're very interested in the small islands, so we're doing all that we can in terms to address it. But like I said, we have our determined goal to try and achieve 70% by 2030. If we do what we can, if we fix all the things that we need to do, as well as find some investors that can help us in terms of the battery system, as well as some of the modernization issues, of course, like what we've been talking about with the other partners, maybe we can have a reliable power system for Palau. But in the meantime, we're still surviving. The power is still on. But like I said, all the necessary things that we need to address, from policies, regulations, as well as addressing all the issues on the transmission and distribution lines, those are things that we need to address before we can actually say we have a reliable and resilient power system for Palau.
Yeah, we're working in 7 countries of the world on a just transition in coal regions. And one of the countries that we are working on is Chile. And as you're certainly aware of, Chile is one of the most dynamic markets or energy system transforming to renewable energies. But as you also know, it is a quite long country, and renewables are basically situated in the north, the solar energy in the Atama Desert, and in the south in the wind and industrial centers. And of course, Santiago de Chile, the capital, is right in the middle. So what you need what became in the last years the bottleneck is the expansion of the grid. Chile faces dynamically growing curtailments because the grid capacity does not grow fast enough. And there's a big construction project which is 1,300 kilometers long, and it is expected to need 2,000 line workers in the next 5 years to realize this project. And the pool of line workers, there's a shortage of 800 qualified line workers. So people turned up to us because we, in our project from that we work in as GIZ in a larger consortium, also with other implementing agencies asked whether we could support, and what we identified is that there are some quite very interesting experiences in Colombia. Colombia still is an important coal producer, while as Chile has already 15 years ago stopped coal producing and is only burning coal. So this is why Chile is participating in our project, because they want to phase out their coal-fired power plants. And in Colombia, between 2016 and 20, there was a huge need for line workers. And there started 2017 a project, and the 3 transmission line companies joined up and agreed upon that they asked, they established a system in which they estimate, if they commission a new transmission line, they estimate how many additional workers do they need, and then the companies who win the contracts have to pay for the qualification of the additionally needed potential of line workers.